Okay, Merry Christmas everyone. This is Christmas Day 2013. The issue I want to talk about in this video is concerning Christians and the persecution of Christians. This is in the world today, I should say. This is something that's been raised on the BBC have your say thing, and a few other websites. So I just want to weigh on it with my views. What I also want to discuss in this video is why I believe that this is unfortunately condoned. Now, it is the basic open question was, are Christians the most persecuted religious group in the world? I think, in my opinion, they possibly are. There's certainly persecution levelled against all religious groups in some form or another, in some parts of the world or another. I could cite many examples that would probably inflame opinion whereby people are persecuted in some part of the world or another. I guess it comes with the territory of religion. It is unfortunately something that can provoke extremism, and all that entails. But in this video I'm specifically focusing on Christianity because that's what the open question was about. Now, I've seen some comments that really riled me, I have to say, because they basically were condoning it, condoning the persecution. And their line of thinking, the people I'm talking about, is, oh well, Christians persecuted people for years. Christianity has a long history of persecution, so you reap what you sow, sort of thing. That's their mentality. So Christians have no right to complain. Well, there's several angles I'd like to take with that. Number one, of course it's true that Christianity has a dark history. There's the blood of thousands and thousands, possibly millions of people in the history of Christianity. Whether it be the Crusades, or witch burning, or even some questionable positions the Church is still taking today. Pope Francis is working hard to reform the Church's image, but there's still a lot of work to be done in terms of attitudes to condoms in Africa, that sort of thing. So the Church has a lot to answer for, there's no question about that. And I've always defended the right to criticise religion, any religion. So I defend anybody's right to criticise Christianity, completely. But I believe there are people who use criticism of Christianity as a cover for the real issue, which is that they simply hate Christian people. And there is a difference. Now, I hate some of the things that are done in the form of political Islamism, but if I was to take an angle of hating all Muslims, that would make me an extremist, because it would be a crude generalization of over 1 billion people. The same can be said of roughly 2 billion Christian adherents. So I believe there are some militant atheists out there, and I'm focusing on atheists because they tend to be the most vocal about this, at least of the people I've seen online, who basically are just spiteful and just hateful in their sort of outlook. And just to clarify, I'm not talking about atheists here. I'm not talking about atheists in general. I'm just talking about those atheists who took this very one-dimensional prism outlook of Christianity. It's like, and it's a very lazy sort of caricature of Christians, that they're Bible-thumping maniacs, and it's sort of like they portray them as all being Fred Phelps-like type figures. The vast majority of Christians I know don't try to force a religion on me. By the way, I'm an agnostic, I've made this point in other videos. The vast majority of Christians I know don't try to ram it down my throat. They don't force it on me. They don't try to forcibly convert me. They don't think they're better than me. And they're thoroughly decent people who, in many cases, devote their lives to others. Now, the classic atheist response to that is, oh, well, you don't need to be a Christian to do that. Of course not. No one's saying you do. But the point is, you're vilifying Christians, and I'm making the point that's unfair. Because many Christians are not the caricature that you make them out to be. Of course, you don't need to be a Christian or religious to be a good person. I'm not saying that for a second. In fact, the Pope even said that. But what irks me off is that some atheists just have this lazy mindset where they caricaturize all Christians as Bible-thumping loonies. That is such a lazy and ill-informed stereotype. Sure, some Christians go on like that, but it is not a majority. And basically, they use a spiteful attitude about Christians to somehow justify the very real persecution that we are seeing. There's many parts of the world, especially, and quite frankly speaking, in Islamic majority countries, where this persecution is very real. Only today, 32 Christians were killed at a church in Baghdad. Persecution of Christians in Pakistan is well documented. It's starting to increase in Egypt and in many other parts of the world. This is indisputable. And when people come out with, oh well, Christians done it in the past, that justifies it, what sort of warped mindset is it that because of past wrongs that somehow justifies, what sort of tribal mindset do you have to have that sort of outlook, that because some extremists burned witches 500 years ago, that somehow justifies blowing up a Christian family in Pakistan today, or Egypt? What sort of mindset do you have where you can think that's okay because Christian history has a dark side? It's just a very stupid and very, frankly, strange outlook to have. Because under that logic, you could say, you could justify any sort of persecution on the grounds that the persecuted party has done it themselves at some point. And it's just a very, in my opinion, it's a very stupid mindset to have. What was it Gandhi said? An eye for an eye makes the whole world blind. So it really comes into that, two wrongs don't make a right. But it also irks me off because it's this presumption that Christians somehow deserve it because they force their religion on others. Now it's true that some Christians are very devout about their faith. And yes, I get pretty annoyed as well when some Christians do try to evangelize, and it can come across as very patronizing, and I do find it rather annoying. But for everyone I've met like that, there's been at least 2 other Christians who haven't done that to me. They haven't forced their religion on me, and they've just been thoroughly decent human beings. So I wish these people who are being so cynical about this sort of report could just see the bigger picture and just accept that there is a reality here, which is that Christians are widely persecuted. It's indisputable. In Pakistan, in Iraq, in Egypt, in Nigeria, in Islamic parts of Nigeria I'm talking about. This is indisputable. And I'm not trying to shit stir, I'm not trying to stir things up between religions here. Like I say, people in every religion get persecuted. And I'm not saying the Muslims are the bad guys or something like that. There's many examples, for example in Burma, where arguably Muslims are being persecuted, and that's also wrong. But the point I'm making here specifically about Christians being persecuted, because there seems to be a tendency, especially among a lot of Western atheists, to condone this, deny it. And you do see it in wider society, whereby Christians can be ridiculed, mocked, and insulted in a way that would not be tolerated for any other religion. I think there's some clear signs of that happening. And I don't know whether that's because Christianity is perceived to be the majority religion, which is actually debatable nowadays in Britain anyway, but that's somehow condoned. And by the way, a message for atheists: Christians have as much right to talk about their religion as you have to talk about your secularism or your atheism. They don't have a right to force it onto you. They don't have a right to patronize you or tell you that you have to agree with them. But you cannot silence them and say they have no right to talk about something that's very important to them. Well, you have a very totalitarian mindset. You're just as bad as the fundamentalists if you have that sort of outlook. Why should Christians be shut up and told that they cannot talk about their religion? Now, like I say, I believe in secularism. I believe in separating church from state. I believe that they should have the right to impose it on others. But they do have a right to talk about it, to simply express views about it. They have as much right to their opinions as anyone. You don't have to agree with it. You can engage in debate with them. But the idea, I have come across atheists who I honestly believe would make it a criminal offence to be a person of faith. Not just Christians, Muslims, Hindus, and every person of faith. And those sort of atheists, frankly, they're fascist. Those sort of atheists. I'm not talking about all atheists. So, in conclusion, I just think that people need to see the bigger picture here and accept that there is a specific level of abuse against Christians, persecution against Christians, that is at levels which other religions don't face in the world today. And yes, the Christian church has a long history of persecuting itself, but even in the past, Christians were persecuted. In ancient Rome, Christians were widely persecuted throughout history. So it's not simply a case in history, oh, Christians were the bad guys. They were also persecuted. Let's not forget that. And I'm tired of militant atheists distorting this. All I'm trying to say is that you need to see the bigger picture and stop generalizing 2 billion people. It's just a lazy generalization. As for the whole business about, well, oh, Christians stole the Christmas idea from pagans, that might be so, but what right do you have to say they have no right to celebrate on this day in their own way? So my message to any Christian celebrating on this Christmas day is warmest wishes to you. If you're in a part of the world where you do face threats, my heart goes out to you. I hope you keep safe and stay strong. And this is coming from a non-Christian. I think it's unacceptable that this happens, and it's unacceptable that so many people think it's okay. So to any Christians watching this video, warmest wishes to you. Keep strong, keep safe, and you have every right to practice your religion. So long as you don't impose it on others, you have every right to practice your religion. Okay, warmest regards.